Climbers, what could you learn from a former two-time major label artist that has now moved on to be an indie artist like you? Does that sound
Hmm.
exciting? Well, we're bringing it to you with an interview that we got going on right now on this episode. Welcome to the climb. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. We talk about that on this episode, don't we?
We
Because
sure do.
spoiler alert, the interview already happened. Now we're doing the intro. But leverage is what you're going to need, man. That's how you're going to get the deal that's going to make sense. That's how you're going to get to work with the people that you want to work with. And I mean, every time you leverage up just a little bit, you start to make some more relationships. You start to get a little more ahead. That's just the name of the game of the new music business. That's why we called it the climb, creating leverage in the music business, C.L.I.M.B. That's brilliant. And Brent Baxter came up with that, my good friend and co-host, who also happens to be a hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Girls love him. Guys want to be like him and want to be his best friend. But what I love about Brent, I mean, he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and on the regular, like regularly, he gives you opportunities to connect with the pros and create the relationship for yourself. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
That's right. And I'd like to connect you with my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Yeah, it's complicated, but Johnny's smart. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's happening, baby?
Woo! So we are doing the intro after the interview because we just wanted to get right into it with our guest, and it was a good one. I'm excited to share it today because it's all kinds of behind the scenes goodness for you as artist and all that good stuff. I'm pumped.
Yeah, and on Saturday Night Live, where there's you get like a coat if you've hosted 5 times or more.
Oh,
It's like a very small
yeah,
club, a small
yeah,
group of people that have hosted.
like the
Uh,
Alec Baldwin Club, the Steve Martin Club. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we got to start doing that because our guest today is Craig Campbell, who is he's a two-timer now. We've
He's
only
a
got a
two-timer climber. He's
two-timer climber. Yeah.
He's his second appearance on the show, and but this is going to be a little different than the first one, and we'll get into that. But yeah, it was a good
Yeah,
one,
I
man.
love it because we get into a deep dive, man, on business, on record deals, on things that he's learned from a business perspective, and certainly on what he's doing now with content. Because let me tell
Mhm.
you, this boy's TikTok game is on point,
That's
y'all.
right.
And it's a learned skill. You're not born with it. You just got to go in. But I think the cool thing that I want you guys to hear about this is like he just it seemed all kinds of weird, all kinds of foreign, and all kinds of wrong to him to have to do content. It was not something that he talks about this in the interview, not something that he was excited about. And then I want you to listen to the interview so you hear like what happened after that and how it
That's right.
transformed for him. And I think it's gonna hopefully give you the oomph, the gusto,
Mhm.
the push that you need to just get started on
That's
doing
right.
it because this is how it's going to happen, guys. All right. But before we do that, let's take care of a little business. We want to invite you to the Climb community on Facebook. It's at facebook.com/groups/the Climb community, or just search for the Climb community in the group section on Facebook, and you'll find us. You have to ask to be let in, but we let everybody in as long as you don't look sus. As the kids say out there,
As
sus, you're
to say,
suspect.
yes.
Yeah. And then,
All riz,
and
no
this was,
sus.
what's that?
All riz, no sus.
Oh, there is no sus. That's right. And look at how hip you and me are hip, dude. We're
That's
hip.
right. That's right.
We're hipsters. We're, we're we're like the young folk. But you can find love and support here, man. This is all singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you, and it's active. We ask that you keep the feed clean. There's just a couple rules, man. The only time that you're going to put anything in the feed is if it's a some kind of information that is news or something funny, man, or some kind of cool music. I put cool musical stuff I find in there, like just
Hmm.
people like blowing my mind with whatever. I'll put that in the feed. The feed is not about you unless you're asking a question. Then
That's
put that
right.
in the feed. And then it's really about everybody else because you're going to get all kinds of love, support, and attention with people that are going to answer that question for
Hmm.
you. And half the time, those answers, by the time I get to it and see it, I'm just putting the up
The
finger
finger up, like
emoji.
I
It's
agree.
like
What he
what
said,
they
what she
said.
said.
They're right
Yeah.
on point. Yeah, what they said. So we want you being there, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear about you. We do want to hear about you. Just got to put that in a different place. That's comes in as a uh, comment on our post. So, new music, man, if you release it, we want to hear about it. Comment
Hmm.
on the new Music Monday post that happens. Guess what? Every Monday.
Hmm.
If you got gigs, we want to hear about that too on the gig alert, which happens every Thursday, so that anybody that's in your area can know about it and be there in time for the weekend gig. And
That's
then
right.
we celebrate on the air your wins, and it's the New Heights post that happens every Wednesday, which we affectionately refer to as Wednesday Wins. So, Brent, what do we got going on for this time?
Yes, just a couple ones that we're going to share right now. They're usually more than we can handle, and that's a good problem. Too much winning. So, Bill O'Hanlon, climber, hey, Bill, says finished up over 100 songs so far this year. And yes, at the time of this, he posted that, it's like early April, just for the record. I finished over 100 songs so far this year, having an awesome book launch songwriters round this Saturday. And there's a rumor that Johnny D will be showing up and causing his usual good trouble. So, that's right.
I am going this Saturday. Yeah, like I'm looking forward to that too, man.
Well,
I
that's
am.
awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ran into Bill and his co-writer on the book, Les Bow. Oh, when I was, during Tin Pan, ran into them, and Bill was kind enough to give me a copy of the book. So I'm looking forward to tearing into that one. But congrats, Bill, on that and on the songs you've finished so far this year. Other climber, Lucy LeBlanc, says, well, as of today, I've now reached 200 songs recorded and released by various indie artists. Been keeping track ever since Bill O'Hanlon has encouraged me to count them up. So
Damn,
200
good
songs,
job, Lucy
Lucy.
LeBlanc.
Congratulations. And one thing I love about that is she's name dropping Bill because, we've actually had them both on the show
Yep.
with our friend Paul
She's part
DeMarco.
of the triple threat of
Exactly.
O'Hanlon,
And
LeBlanc, and
And Paul
Paul, right?
DeMarco. That's right.
Yeah.
So we've had them on the show. So love seeing them. But that's just an example of like the community that goes on in the climb community, the community that's available. Like they're encouraging each other. There's coopetition, right?
Yep.
Cooperative competition, all that stuff. That's what we want for the climb community. It's just, man, building those relationships. It's a relationship business. And I love like seeing, elements of that show up in the feed in the climb community. So congrats, Bill. Congrats, Lucy. Keep on climbing.
Congrats, Bill. Congrats, Lucy. Everybody get your drink ready because I'm going to tell Lucy vulgar display of prowess. That was awesome. Love it. Yeah. So
That's
here's
right.
to you. All right. Let's get into this interview with Craig Campbell, dude. This
Let's
is
do
great.
it. All right, today's guest has co-written and sung hits like Fish, Family Man, Outskirts of Heaven, and others. He's releasing a 6-song Class of '89 album on April 19th, so that's out now. And we'll have a new album, Almost Greatest Hits, coming in July. Our guest is also producing and releasing new artists on his Grindstone Recordings label. On another front, he and his wife opened Grindstone Cowboy Coffee Shop, love that name, by the way, in Eagleville, Tennessee 2 years ago, won Best Coffee Shop and Best Live Music Venue in the
Nice.
Rutherford County Ruthie Awards. That's not Roofie, Ruthie Awards. They are opening their second location in Shelbyville later this year. And because he's now a business owner, today's guest ran for and won a seat in the Eagleville City Council in 2022. He's also a rare two-time Climb guest. Craig
Oh, my God.
Campbell, welcome to the Climb. Welcome
Welcome,
back
Craig.
to
Yeah,
the
let's
Climb.
go. Glad to
That's
be
Hold
back.
right.
on. Before we get into this, I need you to rewind on that whole intro thing for a second. Did you say Almost Greatest Hits is the name of the album?
Yeah, well, hang on one second. Damn it. This somebody decided they wanted to call.
Because
Uh,
you're big time like that.
All right, so can we just go into it?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
hysterical. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so
almost greatest hits.
so when you think about how record labels put out put out greatest hits albums, and they're usually songs that probably for the most part hit the number one bell, and
Mhm.
um, but my career has not been such. All of my songs were close. At least the songs that are going to be on the album were close. So like Family Man went to 12, Fish went to 23, Out of My Head was at 15, and then Keep From Kisses Coming was number 7. So they were almost greatest hits.
That's
Uh,
I've never heard that before. I think that's brilliant.
so
Yeah.
that's how that name came about. And plus, I'm excited to just put these songs out in a package and we re-recorded them, so it's not like a greatest hits where you would just hear they would just put the songs on a record. I actually went in and redid them completely, and it was a lot of fun. So that'll be out later in the year. Yeah,
Cool.
Awesome. And then
Well,
just to clarify, what's the name of the coffee shop? It's
Grindstone,
Grindstone Cowboy, is it?
Grindstone Cowboy.
see it
Yeah,
I
right
love it.
there on a shirt for you
Yeah, he's
YouTubers.
got a
and my
shirt
hat,
on there.
and my hat.
And the hat. Oh, I like that.
I love that, man. I remember us talking about that last time on the podcast. I think that's brilliant too.
Yeah,
You're
That's
very
a great
clever,
name.
Craig. You're very clever.
You should
yeah.
write or something.
I know.
So up next you have, or which is out now by the time this drops, is the Class of '89 album, which I've been, the perks of the pod. I've been listening to it, and dude, I love it. It's strong. It's cover songs. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about that? And I'm really curious, like, why these particular songs, why this kind of project of like covers.
Well, I've been wanting to do this for a very long time, but when I was signed at my 2 previous record labels, they every time I would bring it up, it was more of a like, yeah, we need to focus on something else. We don't have time. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have it sounds like a passion project, and I'm like, yeah, it absolutely is a passion project.
Isn't every artist project supposed to be a freaking passion project, by the way?
Wouldn't you
Yeah.
think?
I
So
mean, that's like you're like I would if I was the artist and they said it to me, I would just be there
What does that make my
like
other
that one
records?
meme, like, wait, what did you say?
right,
Sounds like a
yeah,
passion project. Well, yeah.
yeah,
Hey, that just sounds like something you'd be really into.
yeah. I mean, like, are you messing with me right now? Like what?
So yeah,
Uh,
so the other stuff we did, dispassionate
No,
projects, like
right, well,
Right.
my passion. So I mean, yeah. So I became an independent artist in 2020, and it was definitely on the top 3 things I wanted to do. Make sure I did, and so we started recording this album. It took about a year and a half to get it all together, and because again I'm independent, so I'm paying for it out of my own pocket, so and it's not cheap. So
Mhm.
we were finally able to get it all together, and now's the time. And plus, I believe it. God has his hand on everything, and it's just timing like could not have planned it better, because Clint Black is actually on tour right now with and he's touring on the Killing Time album. It's the 35th anniversary, um, and it's coincidental that I released Killing Time the same year he's celebrating 35 years of that album coming out.
oh,
That's
that's
very
good.
cool. And you've been doing some really cool stuff because, we know each other. I follow you on social media, and you do some really entertaining stuff on there, like skits and stuff. But like and we may dive into some more of that later, because the whole social media thing is Johnny's, he loves that stuff. But particularly for this record, like you're doing some really cool stuff. Like you were in the studio with Clint talking to him about the project. I saw you on a video, like singing to Randy Travis, the On the Other Hand, which is another song on this project. So like, how'd you pull that stuff together? Because that's most people, when they do cover records, can't do that.
Well, I mean, I've been blessed. I've been able to have some really great relationships over the years, and I've done shows with Clint in the past, and so what we did was we sent the music to everybody that the original artists, or at least everybody that we could get a hold of. So
Mhm.
Clint saw or heard Killing Time, and he was like, "Man, I love it. I want to be, let's do some content together. So, and then Randy was the same way. Mary hit us back right away and said, we love it. Let's put our heads together and try to create something pretty cool. And so my team got together and we came up with some ideas. The whole like trying to mirror the original music videos with my content was a pretty cool idea. And so it's been a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, John, you got to look those up because it's like they do a split screen with the original video with like Clint or Randy, and then the Craig version of the video, which is like almost like a cover video.
Yeah,
if there is such a
funny.
thing.
That's awesome.
And so you got the side by side, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But it's of course with Craig's audio over the top of it. So really, we geek out about that stuff here.
I have okay. Wait, so hold on, because I haven't seen those. So it's like the phrasing. Right, so like if I covered up half the screen, it would look like Clint Black was covering
singing
Campbell doing Clint Black. I'm the dude disguised as the dude playing the other dude.
Yeah, somebody said, man, that that Killing Time's pretty good, but it ain't no Clint Black, but it's actually Clint, singing it. It's fun to me.
That's hysterical.
That's great.
So, question I have, like, when did you first get signed? When was your first record deal?
I signed with Bigger Picture back in 08. Oh, no, 09, and then Family Man came out like late 2010. So that's where it all kind of began.
Okay. And so at that point in time, I want to talk about your arc here with your understanding and sort of embracing social media as a marketing tool. Like at that time, on a scale of 1 to 10, how into social media were you?
Well, it wasn't. It was there, and it was a tool.
Yeah,
but it wasn't the tool.
right.
So
radio was still kicking.
Yeah, radio. The idea to put out a song, run it up the chart, drop an album. That was the program. Dump $1 million into it, and you got a number one song.
Yeah.
But so almost every piece of my career has been on as a catch up. Like when I got signed, it was still albums and album sales and CDs. And right about 2010 was when it started switching, and streaming was there, but it wasn't like what it is now.
Yeah.
So people just started moving towards that. So then we were playing catch up to streaming. And then so recently now it's not only is it streaming, but it's social media. And so it was there in the beginning, but it wasn't where people were being discovered like it is today.
Right. Fair enough. So when did the metamorphosis happen for you? Was it when you became an independent artist? Was it prior to that? And was there a moment where you just sort of said, because here's the thing that we continue to get with, that I continue to see with artists, I even, the industry, the music industry, is it's so perplexing to them because it's not radio, right? Which is where everybody's expertise is. But I've had artists that finally, I'm thinking of Rick Monroe. I just saw him last night. He did a record release party at the local. And this is one of those artists where they just finally embraced it. It's like they've been beat down enough with the social media. And then like the guitar player in the band was like, I'm a freaking expert at Pro Tools. I'm a ninja at Pro Tools. It's a pretty sophisticated piece of software.
Right.
I can figure out Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro or something else, and we can do this digital thing. Like it's now part of the job description. Like we have to learn it. So let's get into it. And they didn't put their toe in the water. They just jumped in, which is clearly what you did. I have so much respect for that. I'm just curious, like when was there a moment that you can remember where you're like, well, we're just going to have to do this now. Like, let's go,
Well, I will tell you, it was something that I was active on Instagram and Facebook a little bit. But the TikTok thing was something I was stiff arming. I was like, I'm not doing it. Because my perception of TikTok was dancing and doing those all that, and I'm
The
like,
shuffle, the shuffle.
so my manager came to me. She's like, "Hey, we need to do this TikTok stuff," and I'm like, "No, no, we don't." And she said, "No," she said, "We have to." I said, "Well, look," I said, I'm not doing the dancing thing." I said, "We got to figure something out." I said, I'll do. Let's just figure something else out outside of dancing." I said, "I think that's cheesy. I think it's awful. I think it's stupid." Um, and so I s- and again, the whole video capture content, editing, all that stuff. I said, I just don't have time to do that. So she said, "How about this? How about we get a couple of guys come to your house, let's say once a week, and they capture the content based off of your ideas, and they edit it and they send it back to us and we post it." I said, "It's the only way it'll work."
Mhm.
So that was, I mean, a solid 2.5 years ago, and man, that's we've been having a lot of fun with it. But again, there's a lot of work goes into capturing the content, taking it home, editing it, making the sets look and the consistency. And so that the only way it works for me is to have the Lone Valley guys come out here and do it, you know, like that.
Got it. Now, so one more question on that, on this lane, like, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, but I'm genuinely curious. Is this just something that you realize as a businessman is uh, part of the job description to get your music out there now, and so you do it because you are obviously fully invested in yourself as an artist and as a business, or and you do it like begrudgingly, or did you find that it was also it could be a creative itch that was fun to scratch?
It's crazy to like. Here's the thing. Yeah, at first it was like, oh, it was something I somebody told me I had to do it. So anytime somebody says you have to do this, you automatically try to rebel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
suddenly you're like,
So
Yeah. I suddenly don't want to more than I've never not
it's
wanted
like
to.
it's like kids. It's like you have to clean your room, and they were like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um, but and just be me being transparent with you guys. I don't like the day of like today. I got to shoot content today. I don't know how much we're going to get done with this rain, but um, I'm dreading like that. I'm dreading it. But once they get here and we get set up and we get rolling, I love it.
Mhm.
And it's a weird dynamic. I'm like, it is. I dread them showing up, but once we get in and it's a lot of fun, and especially when we see. Uh, so like I went downtown the other night to do something at Live Oak, and I ran into probably half a dozen people that I hadn't seen in a while. Good,
Mhm.
good music business acquaintances, if you will. And the
Yeah.
first thing they said, "Man, dude, your TikTok game is on fire." I was like,
Yeah.
and so that
that had to feel good.
it feels like, hey, you know what, and I found that people don't really love watching music like me just standing in front of my camera and singing songs. They want to see other things, like they want to laugh, they want
Mhm.
to do things, and every now and again you see me in my speedo, and whether they want to see that or not, they have
They get it.
yeah.
Same
So
place.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
but man, again, I'm finally in a spot now. I'm just having fun with it.
Well, I love that, man, because I think, and thank you for sharing that, because most artists, I think, the first thing they thought of, same thing, the same reaction you had. Like, I don't want, what am I do? Show people my freaking dinner? I think that's stupid. You know what I
Me
mean?
too,
Yeah.
man.
Well, because it is stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're right. But that doesn't mean that's what you're supposed to do. It's just a different medium. And then I think it's interesting that you said, because, to this day, I'm still dreading it right until the red light goes on, and then I start having fun with it. You
Yeah.
know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, do, do you feel, or let me ask you this, like to put it in your own words, but from the first day that you did that to now, how much better have you gotten at it, at the art of creating that content?
Well, I'll tell you that the team has gotten better. Like the ideas
Mhm.
I have are still come to
Wow.
me
Yeah.
but my team, since we've been doing it for 2.5 years, they know how I feel about it. They know they're starting to see what I like to the finished product to be. So they have all that in their minds when we set up, so they know where the cameras want to be and the lights should be, and it's a lot smoother than it was when we first started. And so now we get a lot, like for instance, they'll come today, we'll probably get 8 or 10 videos. As opposed to when we first started, we were getting 3 and 4.
There
Mhm.
you go.
We're knocking them out pretty quick now, and it's more efficient as opposed
Yeah.
to when we first started.
Well, it's a journey, right? I mean, it's like the first
Yeah.
day you played guitar, hey,
Yeah.
you sucked just like me, just like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
And now you're getting into a groove, and I
Yeah.
find that with my clients, like even with my corporate clients, like getting in front of the camera, I've got one client, we've been working together for 4 years, and to your point, it's just so much more efficient now, and they're so professional with it now, It's like they don't even wanna see the first content that we did because they realize they've gotten so much better, and I've
Mhm.
gotten so much better with them, and so I love that, man. I wanna encourage everybody out there, like, look, the only way out on this is through. You gotta just dig in, grab a shovel, and start digging. Pretty
Yeah.
soon you can get real good at it.
Yeah.
Right. And we're still, it's every day is a work in progress. We feel like we get better every time we do it. So I mean, shoot, who knows? Next year we might shoot a full length movie. I don't know.
Right.
Heck
Well,
yeah.
clearly you got a business brain, Craig. Do you feel like when you first signed your record deal um, that you went into it with pretty open eyes, like you really understood how the music business worked and everything like that? Or did you become much better at it as you went through? I guess what lessons have you learned from a business perspective with your artist career that maybe you didn't know in 2010 that you know now, and that you're a master of, or you got your head around?
What have
I,
you
uh,
mastered, Craig?
I haven't mastered any of it, but I've realized the record labels, they have an agenda, and it's not called music business for nothing.
Mhm.
And I get it, I understand it, but at the same time, man, it's it's deflating sometimes as an artist, as a creator. How the record label has all the control, and then you look back. For me, like looking back 10 years, I wish I'd have put my foot down a little more and I said, "Hey, no, we're doing this."
Mhm.
Mhm.
Uh, um, seeing behind the curtain, I'm glad I got to see behind the curtain. So, but and my daughter asked me the other day. She's like, "Daddy, would you change anything, that you've done?" Because she's thinking about doing this music thing. And I said,
Oh,
"Baby," I said,
cool.
"Look, uh, that every choice I've made has led me right here to this exact moment, having this conversation with you."
Mhm.
And I said, "No, I would not change any of it." And
I
I
love
said,
it.
"Now, if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, the answer might have been a little different, but,
Mhm.
no, I don't even know if I'm back. I'm still on the question that you asked, but that's where I went with it.
No, that's exactly where that's exactly it. No, I mean, I think, eh, the reason I started my company, Daredevil, was just like initially I was just partnered up in a studio, and I was like trying to do marketing to to bring artists into the studio. We started doing that, and then I started thinking, well, these artists are coming in, and their plan is to spend everything they have on the record. There's no marketing, there's no promotion because they think it's just about the record.
Mhm.
And so they don't have that mindset. I thought, well, if we can help the artists sell a few more records, and maybe we can get them to come back and do a second record, increase the sales at the studio. And then I just started realizing how on the digital platform, the whole industry is so far behind. I mean, I think the record industry is the only industry on the planet right now that doesn't know who their customer is, that doesn't have your email address and your credit card.
You may be right, but I would even go so far as to say, like, the country music record industry they seem like they are always the last ones to the table, man. And
Mhm.
um,
Interesting. Yeah.
it's the wild wild west right now.
Yeah.
No, ain't nobody knows what
Yes.
to do to anything. Like the breaking an artist, what is that all about? And
Mhm.
and I had a conversation with a guy the other day. He said that the label, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they won't even have they won't even set a meeting unless you have X amount. Like they have a threshold of TikTok followers that you have to be at, and uh, data that you have to show them before they will even talk to you.
Yeah.
So the artist has already done all the work.
Yeah.
And now there's, hey, you know what? We can get you on the radio. That's pretty much all we can do, but we want half of everything you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A buddy of
And
mine said he
that
was
would be a
meeting with.
good deal, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be considered a good deal? Wouldn't that be a JV?
If they get half, only half.
I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
back when I was doing the artist thing, like the rock stars, like Aerosmith got 25 points on the record, and Madonna, you know, I mean, everybody else was sucking it with 9 or 8.
Yeah.
So 50, that's good, man.
That's what, you know, my deal when I was at Bigger Picture, that's what my deal was. And had we had, you know, big success, it would have been a great deal for me and for them. You know, it's 50-50 across the board, across
Wow.
merch,
Good
sales,
for you.
touring. So it would have been a beautiful thing. It just didn't work.
Well, can
Yeah.
I ask you a question? Like, how did you negotiate that? Like, you mentioned earlier that you wish you would have put your foot down a little bit more, but brother, from where I'm sitting here on the cheap seats, that deal right there, that's not an easy deal to come by. Sounds like you knew exactly what the hell you were doing.
Oh no, it was a new concept, like the whole 360 deal. You know, they were 360 didn't necessarily mean 50-50. It was just they were participating in all facets.
Right, right.
The Bigger Picture deal was one of its kind. Matter of fact, my lawyer, my business manager, they all had never seen a deal like that ever.
Wow.
And so they were hesitant on signing it because it was almost too good to be true. So maybe if it seems too good to be true, then it probably is.
Yeah.
So but you know, we didn't have the success we needed. So I was always in debt. So
Right.
I was always just getting my little, you know, monthly draw, my monthly salary paycheck, if you will. Even though, you know, towards the end where Keep Them Kisses Coming was a top 10 song and my tour numbers were shooting through the roof and I was bringing in, you know, almost $2 million in touring, I was still getting my little monthly paycheck, you know. So that was the downside of it. Had we continued that success, it would have balanced out. And so that was the deal they presented.
So they came up with the deal. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a new way. It was kind of an avant-garde label that presented that. That's interesting. I like that.
And they were, you know, very artist friendly. It was like, hey, we want you to be happy. And, you know, if this works, we will all be happy.
Yeah.
And it
Which
would
is
have.
the way it should be, right? As opposed to get down to the basement and start grinding again.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Keep pedaling.
Yeah. So what are some of you mentioned with being independent now, you know, the Class of '89 record, the covers record is something that was always a passion project. You know, one of the top 3 things you wanted to do once you're independent. So what are some of those things, the advantages of being independent versus being like in a label system from your point of view? And you're in a different spot than probably most of the climbers out there, being that, you know, you've had hits on radio. So you do have a certain amount of name recognition, industry connections, that kind of stuff. But where you're sitting now are some of the things you're most thankful for being independent?
Man, I tell you, one of the coolest things about being independent, especially when it comes to recording, I I was able to cut this record, you know, my way.
Yeah.
And most of the time, like for instance, when I was at Broken Bow, there was only he was like, you got to use this producer. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah.
Small things like that. And at the time, I'm like, I don't care, you know, whatever. But now it's like, you know what? I'm gonna produce it. And I'm going to play piano on my record. And I'm gonna play acoustic on my record. And I'm gonna sing my own harmonies. And nobody can tell me I can't.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's
artistic freedom.
That's one of the biggest things so far and I'm, you know, that was always the goal. Even when I had those record deals, it was like, one day I'm going to be big. I'm going to be so famous that they can't tell me no, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the coolest thing about being independent is just doing it the way I want to do it, when I want to do it, how I want to do it. I mean, it's just, I may not ever have another hit at radio, but I lay down at night knowing that everything I'm doing I'm proud of.
Mhm.
My family is proud of. That's all that matters.
That's all, and not for nothing. I think the day is quickly coming where nobody's going to have another hit at radio.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
I grew up on radio. You grew up on radio. We all grew up on radio. That sucks, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And the bottom's gonna fall out. So the artists that are adapting, right? It was Louis Megelson commenting on Darwin that said it's not the strongest of the species that are going to survive, and it's not the most intelligent of the species that are going to survive. It's the most adaptable. And kudos to. I think you got balls, man. Like that. That takes a lot of guts to do what you did, and I mean, much respect from me
Mhm.
for seeing you do that and finding your success. And by
Well,
the way, like we don't have time or the bandwidth to do a cover record, and I'm over here going, freaking first 5 Beatles songs were 50% cover songs.
The first 5 records,
First
yeah.
2 Rolling Stones records were all covers except for 3 songs.
Mhm.
I
guys,
mean,
guys,
my
one of the biggest songs last year, "Fast Car."
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get out of
And
here.
you're like
Yeah.
So, you know what? I mean, what did Brent? What was that comment that Steve Jobs said? He's like, the moment when you internalize and realize and embrace the fact that this thing that we call reality in our world is created by a whole bunch of people that just aren't any smarter than you.
That's a
Right,
It's a
fact.
yeah.
very freeing moment.
That's a fact.
So on this record, one thing I'm loving about for one thing, I love the title "Class of '89." I think I text you or something when I saw that was coming out, just because that phrase is something that I've been hearing since mid '90s or early '90s.
Yeah,
That the Class of '89. So you got Garth, Clint, Alan Jackson, Travis Tritt. I think Vince Gill might have been pre
well,
'89,
no,
but
that
who's
was
some of that class?
that was the 4. Like if you Google it, that's the 4 artists.
Hmm.
For some reason, they just use those 4 out because I think those 4 all signed record deals at the same time and put out music at the same time. So it was Clint Black, Travis Tritt, Alan Jackson, Garth. But when I think of Class of '89, I'm thinking about everybody that signed from about '88 to '93, like that.
Hmm.
They were signed. Like, dude, you didn't get a record deal if you weren't awesome. That's
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, there was so much awesome talent being signed. It's almost like the record labels were like, "Hey guys, there's a lot of talent out there. Let's go find it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then let's make them stars." And they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the title came from, and that's where I was influenced. That's where I was like
Mhm.
my world was getting rocked with all those records, and
Yeah.
and I just felt like that's what we should call it.
That's
like
awesome.
that.
Was there a song on there that you were most got you most clinched up going, okay, let's pull this off? Because I'm sure you played all these songs live. You've been playing live forever. But was there one on here that you're like, all right, this is the kind of the biggest swing for you personally as far as like pull it off?
They're all like very sentimental and special, but I would tell you and again, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but when I recorded this record, I used my buddies. I didn't use the whole Nashville machine. So the
Oh,
guys that
cool.
are playing on this record are the same guys that I was playing with on Lower Broadway when I got discovered.
Yeah.
Um, so
I love that.
it's not the Nashville, the A-list guys. These are my friends.
Yeah.
And so um, we challenged ourselves big time uh, with Bluest Eyes in Texas.
Mm.
It's, that's a tough song and very just musical and melodic and we had a lot of fun tracking that song.
Very
love that.
cool. Yeah, I love the choice on here because it's when I was looking down to going, love all those songs. They're all classics, but there's you have an embarrassment of riches from that era of going, what could I cover?
I
And
know
so it's kind of like,
How do you choose?
yeah, but you
exactly.
chose well, my friend.
I
You
was
chose
asked the
well.
other day, like, how, is there going to be a part B or a part 2? And I'm like, probably. And they were, what's going to be on it? I was like, I don't know. There's thousands of songs that I could pull. You know, it was hard enough to pick these 6, but I picked these 6. Everyone has a story and special, and the reason they're on this record. But yeah, it's tough. It is a lot of good music.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that you use your band too, man. Like,
Yeah.
that for me, I mean, I'm a rock guy, you know, like when I was doing the artist thing, I toured with a hair band back in the day. And listen, there's a lot of great things about it, a lot of bad things about that genre of music, you know. But the one thing that I loved about that is instantly I can tell who the band was by the guitar sound. You know, it was identifiable. And the one thing I always appreciated country music, even in my younger days when I was doing the rock thing, for the stories and the songwriting. But I remember and not understanding at the time how country worked because man, the bands went in and recorded their own stuff. You know, that's
Yeah.
just what you didn't have anybody else do. It was almost like embarrassing in the rock world to do that. You wrote your own songs, you recorded your own stuff, for better or for worse. And I just remember saying, you know, it's just like all the guitar tones. I remember talking to somebody in the business at that point that understood country. Like all the guitar tones just sound they sound like the same guy. Like, well, it is the same guy. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, no wonder I find it so. I mean, the playing phenomenal, but it's like I couldn't differentiate, instantly until the voice came in. Right, what would happen? So that's interesting, man. As more and more indie artists are coming in, I know a lot of them are coming in. They're still using that Nashville machine and getting access to it, but be interesting to see how that works because that playing that signatures in your fingers too, man. It makes the music different. It makes you
Hey,
stand out better. You know,
that was always my argument. 'Cause, you know, I'm not a great acoustic player. I'm a decent piano player, but I'm not Matt Rollins. So, but I felt like even those imperfect.
Oh. You're just saying imperfections. We'll get him back. Here he comes.
I don't know what happened.
That was quick. He's somewhat back.
That wasn't Ren, was it?
No, Ren's not in here. I doubt it.
Well, then
it says Craig is still here.
See if you can click the link again if you text him.
Yeah. Computer died.
Oh shit.
All right.
You there?
He's on a roll.
I know. He'll be back.
Woo!
I hope he likes this interview. I'm digging
That's
it.
crazy. Okay.
I'm too. Yeah, you got to check out his social media game. It's fun. He does a bunch of skits, but it's still like his personality for sure.
Even with
just
all the imperfections of me not being a great piano player, but I always thought at the very least that would be a consistent thing throughout all of my music. And like you just said, when I hear that shitty acoustic playing, I know that's Craig.
So we lost you, right?
I mean?
Like, I hope you still have that thought.
I've heard that
even with all the imperfections.
I've heard that same piano lick in every song. He don't have but one piano lick. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm excited about even. I can play frontwards and backwards, boy.
True, man. And I mean, there's clams on every song.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, either that they want it or not. They're gonna get it.
But it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
We're not trying to impress the musicians. We're just trying to impress the fans, and they want the soul. They want the heart. They want Craig Campbell. That's what they want.
Exactly.
You know.
That's what they're gonna get. Yeah. That's great. One thing you'd mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Almost Greatest Hits album, which is coming in July, and everyone's going to need to check that out, is that you re-recorded them. And I remember having a conversation with Dan Truman of Diamond Rio like years ago about, they're on the road. They were, the post label
Let
days
me get
for
my
them.
coffee. Hang on.
Talking about, they were discussing re-recording everything. I was like, well, why would you want to re-record that? He's like, because we own it. We don't have to buy
So
it
if
from
you
the
think
label,
about it,
baby.
the
So can you
business,
dive
music
into that just a little bit? Because I think
and
that's
they'll always,
smart. It's an
record
investment on the
labels will
front
always
end, because
be the ones
obviously
that
studio
reap all
time
the benefit,
is not
most of it.
free.
But
What's the benefit of that for you?
let's just
Because we're
use
wanting
easy
to
numbers:
teach our
$5,000
climbers
per million
how to
streams
think like a
ish
pro,
if you own
man.
the master. So if you think about, I got one song,
Before I
it's the
dive into
Outskirts of
this,
Heaven, it's 100 million streams. That's what, 500 grand? Is that right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, so 500 grand that the label has made on just owning the master. Now that, again, I'll probably never see those numbers, but if I could post my versions and they sound exactly the same, just a little bit newer, and then I can start
Yep.
that revenue
No,
comes
wait,
my way.
5,000
5,000 for
times
a million
100.
streams.
It's
So
just
10 million would be 50
and
grand.
again,
So 100 million would be 500 grand. You're right.
I'm outside of the re-record clause, so I can do it this way, and I can package them because Bigger Picture's closed. They'll never package those songs together. And then one of my biggest songs was with Broken Bow. They don't even have enough songs to put together a greatest hits record, so it wouldn't work anyways. There's no way to put a greatest hits record that spans 2 record labels. It was just easier for me to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
They're 98% just like the original. I
So
changed a
let
couple
me
of
ask you a
things.
question. Did
A
you,
melody
what was
in
your
Family Man. I
approach
did something towards the
artistically
end that was different than
to
the rest
re-recording
than the
those?
original.
Was your
Fish.
goal
There's a
to
bass
get
run
them
in the
as close to
little
the
bridge
original
that
masters
I
as
changed.
possible, or did you take some
But
artistic license and do some different
for the
things to it?
most part, they're they're carbon copies.
Okay.
They sound better. Like they're 2023. They're as
Okay.
opposed to 2010. So they're just the yeah. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
That's awesome. I mean, I think
yeah. Almost greatest hits.
yeah,
Family
yeah.
Man. My version. That's
Mm-hmm.
it.
They're wider and more lush. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Are you going to
No,
call
I
them
get
like
that.
Craig's version?
Right.
Is it going to be Fish? Craig's version. Can we stir
Right.
up some drama to
You
get people on
freaking
your
should
side?
do that, dude. I mean, why not? Because I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, it's like whoever owns the traffic rules the road, man. And
Yeah.
you know what? Nobody was ever going to Spotify for Broken Bow. And nobody was ever going to Spotify for Bigger Picture Records. They were going to Spotify for Craig Campbell.
Mhm.
So Craig Campbell owns the traffic, regardless of who helped to make the brand name. The reality is still the same. So
Mhm.
that part I love about the new
Right.
music business because it levels the playing field. They're I believe that the deal that you got with Bigger Picture was clearly intuitive on the label's part, understanding that we need to be a better partner to the artist. We don't have slaves anymore. Like we can't walk all over. I think it was Jimmy Iovine that said, hail to the artist, your time has come. It's no longer the
Well,
artist's problem to worry about making more money for the label and making
exactly.
more money for the
It's
streaming
genius.
service.
And
It's the streaming service's problem and the
and more and
label's
more these
problem
days, if you
to
talk about
worry
social
about
media and
how
people
much
having
more
the
value they can
underground fan
add to the
base,
artist. Because as
going
Taylor
in, if
Swift
let's just
proved,
say a record
and
label
I
says,
think
"Hey,
that
we
she
want to
was
be in
just the
the,"
first of many to come.
let's just say Cody Johnson business. It's like, "Hey, we
I'll
want to
just do
partner with
this
Cody
over
Johnson."
here.
I guarantee
If I
you,
put it on
Cody
this
Johnson's
server,
record deal is
my
very
fans are going to
Cody
go there
Johnson
because I
friendly
told them to.
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
he held the cards. I bet.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Hell yeah, because you know why?
He
Yep,
created
he
the
had all
leverage.
the leverage. He had all
Yeah.
the leverage, and I guarantee you that he turned down record deals for probably 5 or 6 years, just saying no until
Yeah.
finally
The
they
only
can.
time I'm
And
taking the
you
cowboy
know,
hat off is
I
when
can
I
picture it,
introduce
man. I
myself
know how many
to a
people
lady.
like went out and saw him and were just like, "Listen, we love you. We think you're great. You got to lose the cowboy hat though. That's not working anymore." And he's like, "What the f? Like I'm a cowboy. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't a freaking shtick, man. It's not a getup. Like I wear if I wasn't doing this, I'd be working on the ranch wearing the same damn hat, you know."
100%.
And that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, can't you see that conversation between him and Espo when he flew him up? And the story is they went out for margaritas and Mexican food for lunch. And I'm sure Espo
Yeah.
was like, "Look, you're going to be on
Get him
one.
out of here.
What do you want? What's it going to take?" And he's like, "I want complete creative control. I'm going to use all your money, and it's not going to be 360. And what we are going to split is going to be 50-50. I'm going to use all your infrastructure. And, if one person from your freaking label comes up and tells me to lose my cowboy hat,
It
I'm
would
not
be
trying to
that.
be
It
a
would
jerk,
be
but I want him
just like you
fired. Like, I don't
explained
want
it
to hear that
with the
crap.
Cody Johnson scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously nobody knows
And
exactly
that's the
what his
beauty of
contract looks
leverage,
like,
man.
but
Beauty of
So,
leverage.
I'd say
which
it's a
leads
very
me to this
Cody
question that I
Johnson
wanted to
friendly
ask
deal, and
you,
that it would be
Craig.
a Craig Campbell friendly deal. It would
I
be,
mean, you're doing really
hey,
well
you know
now
what?
as
You
an
ain't getting
indie
none of
artist.
this. You
What
ain't getting none of this, and you ain't getting
would
none
it
of
take,
this.
if
All I need
anything,
you for
to woo you back to a label?
is radio and award shows. That's because essentially that's all they are is a a radio bank
Mhm.
Right.
and the the um, the block voting on the award shows. I mean, that's because let's just be honest, award shows they translate into ticket sales big time. So it's marketing. Yeah, it's absolutely marketing.
Yeah.
So I,
Yep. A radio bank.
And an award
Stealing
show
that.
Rolodex.
hey, and that
It's
would be part of
marketing.
it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's working.
I may not look.
Yep.
Again, I want to be a good I would
Yep.
be a good
No,
partner,
that makes
and I'd
sense.
say, hey,
And
you know what?
I think
You can own the
in the
master
wake of
up into
Taylor,
this.
we see now that all the
But
deals with the superstars moving
it comes
forward
back to
in
me
all genres. I mean,
100%. You don't
Drake
own
has
none
his,
of it.
Taylor has it. Their
That's
deals now.
kind of what
The
Garth did.
artist owns the masters.
Mm.
Like that's out of the gate.
I think Garth had that back in the day.
Yeah. Buck Owens, yeah, he's like, yeah, just tell him you want your masters. And they were like,
Yeah.
That's wild. And he got them.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, he was
And then it
leveraged. He
reverts
was the
back to
biggest
me.
thing in the universe. And
Yeah.
it was either that or he just wasn't going to sing no more.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. He
Yep.
had, I remember that back in the day when he had masters, and I was like, what is that? But yeah.
Well, you could also negotiate, like, I'll give you the revenue off of it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he
but
Leverage.
you
asked.
don't own it.
He
Leverage.
had the balls to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're done, it's mine.
Well, I guess 50% or 25% of this big, huge sun that's generating all this cash is better than nothing. So
Mhm.
they
Right.
said, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Good point. Hey, I'll let you participate in the revenue, but I'm
Exactly.
gonna own it.
I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
times I've had that conversation with record labels. They'll say, "Hey, we
Yeah.
don't have time.
And contractually,
we
that's
have these amount." I said, "Yeah, you do.
you're
You
telling
have
me I
all
should
those
trust
artists
you
to
in a
worry about.
contract? You can
I
trust me
got
in a
one,
contract, right?
Yeah.
and I lay down at night
Yeah.
thinking
Who do you
about
think's
that
more
one
motivated to
artist.
go make
I
a lot of
wake
money
up
with
in the
this?
morning thinking
Me.
about that one artist,
This is
and
my
so
career.
I don't want to
Very
hear
cool.
Yeah,
that.
I got one career. You got how many artists? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's just a
What does
huge
it
lesson
take?
for everybody is nobody else has as much stake in your career as you do. Whoever
right.
climbers you're listening, nobody else has as much stake. So you got to
So,
take care of business.
you got any more quick? I got one last question before we wrap up. Unless you got one, if you got a big one.
Well, no, I was just going to say, we mentioned at the beginning that Craig is one of the rare 2-time Climb guests. The other episode, because you can't get enough, I know you don't have enough, you want more, and you can find more on our song title challenge number 118. Song title
Yes.
challenge number 118. Go there, you can get some more Craig. But other than that, just the usual where we can find him and follow him and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I had. But Johnny, do you have anything else closing up?
Well, just one final thing. Like,
Spend
as
money wisely,
an indie artist
because I mean,
now,
it's like,
you're in
again, it's
control of
my.
everything.
But
What
I
do you
also want to
think?
point out real quick.
What's the
I
most
don't
valuable
want. I don't
thing that
want
you
like
learned?
country radio to if they see
there's
if
one,
anybody
I
from
know it's a
country
lot
radio
of stuff,
sees
but what's
this.
the most valuable
I
thing
am
that you can
very
think of
grateful
that comes to the top of
for
your
the
head that you
success
learned
that I've
that
had
has helped
through
you
country
as
radio.
an indie artist
And
keep the
but
train
I
on the
also
tracks?
want them to know that I understand how it works now, and I'm not mad at them. I'm just saying I'm just. Thank you so much for playing "Keep Them Kisses Coming" and "Out of My Head" and "Fish" and "Family Man" and "Outskirts." I love you for that, and it changed my life. But now that I know how it all works, I understand. But I guess spend money wisely, folks. If you're going to spend money, spend it in the right spots. Marketing, social media is a big deal. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I've learned here recently. But at the end of the day, I think most importantly is make and do things that make you happy. Don't I can't tell you how many songs I recorded because I was told you need to record this song, even though I didn't want to. And so that's it. Be true. Be true to who you are, and do that well. If I'm not on the road, I'd probably be there now. But I got a great team down there, and my wife, she's the GM, if you will. She's on the ground all the time. She keeps everybody going, and we've been blessed. It's very successful. We're actually opening another location just south of here in Shelbyville, and then we got another location
how much time
going
do you spend at your coffee shop?
up in Florida. So it's been a wild ride, man. We never thought it would be this successful this fast, but we are loving it. So yeah, we talked about social media. My Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I think is all at Craig Campbell TV, but my TikTok is at Craig Campbell Music. And again, pat myself on the back. My TikTok game is legit.
Good for you, man.
It's good. Wait till y'all see this new video I got. It's a follow up to. Once we get out of it, like I'm in record promotion mode. So once all that's gotten out of the way, I'll release this. It's a follow up video to the one that I did, like a conversation with the record executive. It's good. It's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to be great. Yeah.
Promo. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Can't
wait.
I'm down. I want to see that.
Well, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Hey, let's just do this every 6 months. It sounds good.
Yes.
It's always good to see your face, man. And congratulations on all your success with the
let's do it.
With your business in the coffee, and also with your artist career, man. It doesn't happen by accident, man. I can tell you're working your butt off, and mad respect for you, man. Congrats.
Yep. There we go.
Every time you release a record, dude, bring it back. I mean, I want to come down to the coffee shop and talk to you about music business because I want to pick your brain. I love it. Love it. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.
Who rider